Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the second series of Sikh Live webinars. Let me tell you a little bit about the Sikh Research Institute and about Inderpreet Singh. The Sikh Research Institute is a community development organization focusing on training and development, global awareness, and developing strategic solutions through a Gurmat-based perspective. Gurmat is often described as the Guru's way. Literally, though, it means the wisdom of the Guru. Through their many SikhRI education programs, the Sikh Research Institute has made a significant impact on individuals and communities throughout the United States, Canada, and United Kingdom. A few examples of these programs would be Mark of Excellence, which is a one-day event which comprises of a set of interactive workshops on a particular theme. Another is Siddhik, a leadership development program for high school students and young adults that focuses on basic and advanced levels of SikhRI principles, as well as the language of Gurbani. The Drist Retreat is the weekly retreat for young married couples to strengthen their values in marriage and family relationships. Another is Sevadar, which is the training session on becoming an inspiring activist. And we've also developed an education curriculum called Soji, which is a strategic solution project geared to improve the effectiveness of SikhRI education through developing high standards of learning and creating comprehensive teaching materials. The year 2008 marks 5 years of Sikh Research Institute's work. To celebrate this and to commemorate the 300th anniversary of Guru Granth Sahib, the Institute has launched Live SikhRI webinars, a webinar to create awareness, encourage reflection, and arouse absorption. Liv will provide live interactive sessions allowing participants to engage with presenters and other attendees in real time, or as a pre-recorded instructional workshop that can be downloaded on demand by anyone with access to the internet once it's available. Please note, the views and opinions expressed in this webinar do not necessarily reflect that of Sikh Research Institute. Now, let me introduce you to Inderpreet Singh, our presenter for today. Inderpreet Singh is a technology professional currently working at a multinational high-tech firm as a director of emerging technologies. His passion is SikhRI and Panthik-related community projects, and he is heavily involved with Sikh youth camps, retreats, and conferences where he conducts seminars, lectures, and interactive workshops on Gurmat-related topics. Inderpreet Singh is an active volunteer and member of the advisory board of the Sikh Research Institute. He also serves on the board of advisors of the Sikh Scholarship Foundation. Without further ado, let me pass it on to Inderpreet Singh.
Thank you. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I hope everyone can hear me. It's pretty amazing that, you know, we, just like the whole world is going to this next generation technology, Web 2.0 type of technology, that, you know, we, at least a small step that Sikh Research Institute has taken to bring the Sikh population into the next gen technology is really great. Me being a technologist myself, I use this at work all the time for, you know, making and breaking deals and talking about, you know, products. But, you know, it's great to see, it's refreshing to see that we can also talk about non-technology stuff using the technology itself. So that's great. Before we start, what I wanted to do, once again, using this technology, I want to send out a poll to find out how many people. I see that there's about 32 people who are logged in right now to this webinar, but if I'm going to send out a poll to see how many have attended a SikhRI webinar before, and which, not exactly which of the webinars, but how many webinars have you attended? I know that there have been 4 of them already, and giving me and giving the audience as well, you know, kind of a rough estimate of who has attended, who hasn't. A lot of the stuff we'll talk today might be a little bit of review. What Harinder Singh has done in the past with the 4 webinars is, you know, really gone over what the framework is, and everything that you'll notice that we go forward with will be using that framework to talk about. So you got 1 minute to answer that, by the way, 30 seconds left, and I'll also be able to publish the poll so the audience can see how many people are involved in this. Okay, that's about it. Looks like approximately 68%, 70% of all of us today have been to a webinar. Hopefully you guys can see the poll results as well. And not everyone has gone to all 4 of them, but it's a pretty good distribution. So the topic today is ethical living, a Gurmat perspective. As many of you who may have heard me speak before, please, let's have one point clear. I'm not a preacher of any sort, a teacher of any sort. What I try to do over here really is kind of share my views and opinions based on what my personal understanding is of Gurmat, or the framework that I've come to understand, try my best to live as well. So more of facilitating, providing thought-provoking questions. Not going to be providing answers per se, but hopefully giving everyone the ability and areas in which you can go and find the answers yourself. Like in all cases, that is SikhRI, the first place to look for answers in the Guru Granth Sahib. I had chosen a shabad to kind of discuss and talk about when it came to ethical living, what's morality, etc. But rather than using a canned shabad that I may have, all of us may have heard of before, I thought let's go and take a look at the Hukamnama that was taken at Darbar Sahib, Amritsar today. Unfortunately, I don't have the transcription. It's only in Gurmukhi, and I hope those that are on can at least try and read along. If those that can't read Gurmukhi, which I recommend everyone do learn. Let me just go over this, and we'll talk about a little bit of the Rahali Tuk, as well as some of the topics that have come up in this Hukam today from Darbar Sahib. It's on page 676 of Guru Granth Sahib, Rag Tanasri, 5th Nanak. So it goes like this: Tanasri Mahalla Panjwa, Kar Duja, Chaupade, Ik Onkar, Satgur Prasad. Chhod jaye se kare paral, kaam na aave se janjal. Sang na chahle tin se urhit, jo behrai se meet. The Rahali Tuk is Aisa param pule sansara, janam padarat khoye gavara rahao. Saach dharam nahi paave jitha, jhoot pohe syo rachyo mitha, daat pyari visrya datara, jane nahi maran vichara. Vast parai ko ut rove, karam taram sagla e khove, hukam na buje avan jane, paap kare ta pacho tane. Jo tud bhave so parwan, tera pane no kurban, nanak garib banda jan tera, rakh le sahib brahm mera. So, the very first thing, okay, so the very first thing is the Rahali Tuk. Guru Sahib is explaining over here that, everyone has a feeling of what is the correct way of living, what is the correct behavior in our lives, what really is spirituality, what isn't spirituality. But, to be honest, asa param pule sansara, in this doubt of what really it is, what it isn't, the doubts that we have in our mind, majority of the people are actually stuck in those type of issues. And what's truly worthwhile at the end of the day, janam padarat, right? What's really is the treasure of life given to us by Vaguru. We're not really taking care of that. Khoye gavara. In our mindlessness, in our day-to-day rat races, we're actually forgetting what's really valuable in life. And one of the things that I found very interesting over here, Sach Dharam Nahi Pave Dita. Majority of us, we don't even want to look at, we don't even want to step back and just relax and take a look at So Pave Dita, like doesn't want to see. Sat Dharam. A life based on truthfulness is what that's talking about. A lifestyle, Dharam, literally if you translate it is duty, religion sometimes. Sat is truth. So, but when you look at it, it's really a truthful lifestyle. We're not even bothered to look about that. That's what Guru Sahib is telling us over here. And he's basically presenting what's the status quo of our lives. This was written multiple hundreds of years ago. It still applies to us today. Couple of other ones I found very interesting as well is Daat Pyari Visrya Datara. So when we talk about ethical living, of course, choices that we make in our career, choices that we make of how to earn money, that's the aspect of it, and that's to get to get material goods of any kind, cars, houses, bank accounts. So sure, that's some possessions that we have, and we're very fond of those, Daat Pyari. The problem is we don't, once again, take a step back and think about by whose grace did we receive those goods. So Daat Pyari, all material goods we love and enjoy. Visrya Datara, we forget the one who gave that to us. Now, I don't want people to think that there's some God out there that has a whole bag of gifts and is, doling out gifts to everyone. What we earn in our life is based on effort, but there's always a grace perspective. There's a grace perspective associated with that. So this hukam is going through all different examples. Vast parai ko ut rove, karam dharam sagla ikove. Your lifestyle is not based on any higher inspiration. It's based on an accounting perspective. If I do such and such good deeds, as a result, I will receive such and such good responses. My fortune will be positive rather than negative. So these calculated moves that we make in our life, Guru Sahib is actually not interested in that. An intuitive lifestyle that is based on a real core foundation, some core values. That's what Guru Sahib is interested in, and that's what we're going to try and talk about today, given the Gurmat framework when it comes to ethical living. By the way, I meant to say I will be accepting questions as we go along the way, but there's a portion of this talk that really actually is more informational. Towards the end of it, I'll try to make it as interactive as possible. So, ethics. Once again, I'm not a philosopher. I'm not a ethics expert of any kind. Dictionary.com gives a lot of different ideas of what ethics is all about. It's a system of moral principles as of an individual, but also a group. It's actually also a branch of philosophy dealing with values and systems of that sort. You take it always in the religious perspective as well. Aryan and Semitic faiths have their own views of what ethics is. In the Aryan faiths, some Western scholars actually, when they analyze Aryan faiths like Hinduism and Buddhism, etc., they actually notice from their perspective that religion and ethics in those faiths are actually not part and parcel of the same thing. There's laws that are separate and spiritual values are separate. In the Semitic faiths, on the other hand, they are intermingled. Religion is a set of laws. The Bible and the Quran have very specific injunctions on how one is to live their life in very specific scenarios as well. So I will try my best to present the Sikh view. It is quite different. I will personally try and work on a non-academic and non-philosophical approach. I suddenly started getting some echo. Okay, so for those of you that have been to the Liv webinars before and also heard myself or Harinder Singh or others speak before, whenever we try to present something, any topic that's associated with SikhRI, you got to look at it from a Gurmat perspective. right? Gurmat, as Jasmine explained in her introduction, is the Guru's way, the Guru's way of thinking, the Guru's mindset. That's what it means literally. But in order to make that tangible for us, you know, you got to do a multi-dimensional analysis of those type of subjects. The scripture, our Bani, that's kind of the fundamental first resource for us to go to understand any topic if you want to look at it from the lens of Gurmat. That scripture is, you know, you can think of it as the theoretical approach, but you know, theoretical approach, if not brought to life, remains theoretical. What makes it practical is a historical perspective. Which entities took that Bani, took that scripture, and made it alive? And in our case, in the Sikh case, the ideal role models from a historical perspective are our gurus. So guru incidents of history, guru-inspired individuals, Guru Sikhs that have passed through that history, those are valid and necessary examples for us to take to understand anything from the lens of Gurmat. If it's all history and it's all scripture, then how does it apply to us today? What matter is it to us today? As a matter of fact, some of you, and all of you being on this webinar, I'm assuming are very active on the internet as well. In some of the discussion groups on the internet, there are a group of individuals, and rightly so, probably from their perspective, that are not in touch with our history. And I've heard examples of, you know, back in the day, Chote Sahibzade, they made that choice that they wanted to give up their lives for their faith. That was the choice that they made. That was a historical incident that took place. Today, my life is not in danger. I can still be a Sikh and not have to take a holistic view of it from a disciplined perspective. So there's a detachment from history is what I'm trying to say over here. And that's happened. Many Sikhs are not able to apply and take a sense of inspiration from their history. But I think if Bani, Twarik are brought together, the Rahat, the lifestyle, the discipline that we live today, and what's tangible to us today, that's what makes it a holistic view and makes it a Gurmat perspective, makes it a view from the Gurmat perspective. So this is kind of just a review of framework stuff that you must have heard about in all Sikh Research Institute type of programs, but especially Harinder Singh spent 4 webinars to kind of bring that framework and present it forth. Now, this is something that I've done many times in some of my other talks. I want to show you that, you know, there's a Gurmat framework, multidimensional analysis of it. I wanted to just present some of the principles, some of the traditions that, you know, we all Sikhs, you know very well. Some might not know very well. You know, this whole concept of Sant Sipahi, of Miri Piri, Deg Teg, Granth Panth. Some of the new ones might be Raj Jog. You know, very often it is interpreted to be the Raja of Jogis, so the you know, kind of the king of spirituality. If you look at the context in which Raj Jog has been used in Gurbani, it's really very similar to the Miri Piri concept, where Raj happens to be kind of a temporal sovereignty, Jog happens to be an aspect of spirituality, and they're all placed together. So Raj, Jog, Takat Deen, Guru Ramdas actually does not mean that Guru Ramdas is the king of Jogis. What it means is that Guru Ramdas is such an entity that understands and lives and preaches and inspires an integrated approach of temporal and spiritual sovereignty. So all of these traditions, concepts, Sangat, Pangat, you'll see, you know, it looks like a dichotomy. It looks like, wait a minute, how is it possible for Sikhs to be a grahast, which is a householder, and at the same time an udasi, a sort of an ascetic that has detached themselves from society. So at the onset, without a deeper kind of analysis, it looks like it's a dichotomy. It's really difficult to bring together. However, with a a little bit of effort to try and understand it, it actually makes complete sense. One of the another kind of what seems like a dichotomy, this is really in the Aryan faiths, they are very, the aspect of divine is very immanent. So everything is within the creation. That is why, Murti Puja or idol worship actually makes sense, or worship of the sun, worship of trees, worship of animals, because that divine is considered to be within that creation. But in the in the Semitic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, there's a transcendent or nirgun aspect of the divine. There's a heaven out there somewhere. There's a God that is overlooking. There's an Allah that is overlooking and is making decisions on groups of people. So there's a transcendent and immanent. Just in regular religions, that's understood. Guru Sahib has been very clear in over and over again in Bani. Bhai Gurdas Ji has related very succinctly in his Bani as well, where SikhRI is an integrated approach of Nirgun and Sargun. The divine is both transcendent as well as immanent. And the very first symbol or the very first word in the Guru Granth Sahib, kind of solidifies this approach. That, of course, all of you already know, is Ikonkar. So that's the when even though we have to do a multidimensional analysis of all subjects within SikhRI, even though all of our traditions and institutions have kind of a dual role, a dual metaphor associated with them, at the end of the day, everything emanates from this oneness or an integrated approach. So if we're going to say that we're going to be ethical, for example, in our careers, but back at home I can not continue that ethical and that moral way of living, we got some issues that we have to work through. However, if there is a consistent approach to our lifestyle based on a consistent ideology and consistent inspiration, that of the Guru, of course, then okay, we're kind of understanding the framework of what ethical lifestyle means from a Sikh perspective. Feel free to, I know I'm doing a lot of kind of theoretical speaking. Trust me, it's going to get a little bit more tangible. At least that's what I'm going to attempt to do. So I love this quote from Principal Teja Singh. It comes from Outline of Sikh Doctrines. And if we, one of the things that everyone, when asked, what is the aim of life according to a Sikh, the common answer is become one with God, become one with Vahaguru, become one with the Creator, which is great. At a surface level, you kind of get to understand that. I think Principal Teja Singh says it best. The aim of life according to the Sikh Gurus is not to get salvation or a heavenly abode called paradise. There's no heaven or paradise or Swarga kind of concept, even though those words are used to get a message across in the Guru Granth Sahib, but to develop the best in us, which is God. So two key words over here: develop. There's an action associated with that. Some type of it's not a static requirement. The best means that there's got to be a model associated with it. What is the best according to us? That, of course, Gurmukh hoke. So Gurmukh, through the understanding that the Guru has provided, one comes to realize to some extent what is the best. Okay. This is the next slide I'm going to go to. We have a feeling, once again, I'm trying to present over here that we can compartmentalize our life into different aspects and focus on one aspect or the other. Practically, that's what you have to do. But when you take the Gurmat approach, everything is happening simultaneously. Occasionally, based on reality, you have to put more emphasis in one sphere of life versus another sphere. Here's an interesting quote from Professor Puran Singh in Spirit of the Sikh, where he is presenting that everything I do has to be purposeful. It also has to be holistic as well. So I can't be confined to one aspect of life which does not apply, does not have any significance for either myself or for others. And at the same time, I can't be outwardly focused, trying to change others where I haven't changed myself. You know, both of those things. So let me just read this real quick. As long as I had not seen him, the beloved, I was terribly active as all volcanoes are. I robbed others of their life, labor, and love, even mind and soul. But I believe now in digging my own heart and sinking deeper and deeper into the sea of myself. Over here, when he says this, I recall, Man tu jot sarup hai, apna mool pachan. So, oh my mind, you are the embodiment of the divine light. If you want to understand yourself, look deep down in yourself. So I believe now in digging my own heart and sinking deeper and deeper in the sea of myself. I lie prone wherever he leaves me. So now I have realized that I have to also live in consonance with the hukum. I lie prone wherever he leaves me. I rise whenever he raises me. I am both his sword and his reed flute. Sword and reed flute. This should remind us of Sangat, Pangat, Miri, Piri, Sant Sipahi, Raj Jog, Drast Udasi. So Professor Puran Singh, in a very eloquent way, kind of energizes us and kind of gives us the idea of what Guru Sahib has been talking about this whole time. And his emphasis on he, you know, that was his writing style. His emphasis on he is the ikonkar aspect. So there's that whole duality, but then there's a whole integrated force behind what Professor Puran Singh says. And you know, I really enjoy when he does that. Okay, so living an ethical lifestyle, what is from a theological perspective, how should we look at ethical lifestyle? That's great. Let's take a look a little bit from a historical perspective. What were some very simple examples that I want to share with you on how the gurus lived their ethical lifestyle? Oh, we have one question over here from Prabjit Singh in Washington, D.C. What does reed flute mean in this quote? Okay, so let me go back to that. It's a nice, I don't know if that's a real reed flute, but I think it is. The sword and the reed flute are representative of a midi-pidi lifestyle, or a balanced, integrative approach of a lifestyle. So basically, Professor Puran Singh is saying that based on the context of my life at the given time, as Vaheguru will me, as it be Vaheguru's hukum, there may be a time when I have to fight with my sword and, you know, fight compassionately, of course. There might be a time where my focus should be internal. I have to calm my inner energy of krodh or of anger, and you know, the reed flute, the spirituality of things, will help me balance that out. So you take a sword and a flute on the other side. You know, flute has this whole connotation of sweet music and very loving, whereas a sword, iron fist, there's a balance over there. I don't know if that answers the question, but it's a great analogy that I love, that kind of brings together all of the whole the dual yet integrative approach of the gurus. So this some of you may have seen before. It is from Bhai Nandlalji's Bani, Ganjnama. I actually never realized it was from Bhai Nandlalji. I had actually read Principal Teja Singh's little tract called The Growth of Responsibility of Sikhism. It's a tract in which he goes through these core values of each guru, and it's attributed, each of these is attributed to the guru. From the top left-hand side, humility starts with Guru Nanak, goes down, and then the last one, courage, is Guru Gobind Singh. So even though all of our gurus had all of these core values with them, Bhai Nandlalji presented it in his Bani, Principal Teja Singh explained it in his tract, where there was a focus, or there was something that really stood out when it came to these core values of all the gurus. So take clarity, for example. That would be the 8th Guru Sahib, Guru Har Krishan. Gurus are all perfect. Gurus equal perfection. So age and perfection are not mutually exclusive. So even at such a young age, Guru Har Krishan Sahib was so clear in his mind with his ethical responsibilities, his moral responsibilities, and his status within the rest of society. He refused to have any dialogue, any direct dialogue, or any attend the court of Emperor Aurangzeb. Okay, so what really, and I'm just going to pick a few of them. So from a clarity perspective, what really hits out to me over there with Guru Har Krishan Sahib's example, he was originally invited to Delhi by Emperor Aurangzeb. He refused to have a direct audience with Aurangzeb unless it was on neutral ground, so would not visit the palace of Aurangzeb. Instead, he chose to stay at the bungalow or the mansion of Raja Jai Singh. And if there were any dialogue which took place, it would be through messengers of the Guru and messengers of Aurangzeb themselves. But my point here is that because of the socio-political context of that time, where there was a lot of danger presenting the Sikh community in general, Guru Sahib could have negotiated, could have given in and had that audience with Aurangzeb, but the larger principles really mattered. And it was very, very obvious from the lifestyle, the ethical lifestyle of Guru Sahib, where he refused to approach Aurangzeb unless it was on an equal footing. You know, if Guru Sahib attends the court of Aurangzeb, he's coming as a visitor. He's coming as someone who is not on an equal footing. When heads of state, they meet, there's a whole protocol committee that works and negotiates as to what will be what process will be followed when two heads of state meet. So Guru Sahib was very clear of his position was not just a spiritual head, but also a sovereign temporal head as well. And so was very strong and clear on that. Something for us to reflect upon when we, in our careers, whether we're in politics or in regular, non-political careers, we take that. So another example, I see a question come up, but I will answer that. Another example that I did want to give is one of service. So service was Guru Ram Das. Okay, so Guru Ram Das. Why was he highlighted to be, the epitome of service? There are episodes from the life of Guru Ram Das which some of us might not have read. If we dwell deeper, we will know. Once Amritsar was being, Darbar Sahib and Amritsar was being established, it was very easy for Guru Ram Das to sit back and just, hire masonries or civil engineers to, present the city and build the city. Instead, Guru Ram Das institutionalized this aspect of service, and he would organize his sangat into different groups and different teams, and cannot force them, but encourage them every day to take some time out and do something above and beyond what they would be doing normally. Okay, so that is really where service, or this concept of seva, starts getting even more institutionalized and ingrained in the Sikh psyche. Feel free to read through the historical books where you'll find episodes of that. The question we got, Ripudaman Singh in the US says, what is justice? How is it different from revenge? I think that's a very simple answer to there. This is justice is referring to Guru Har Gobind Sahib. I'm not too sure about what the context of this question is, but when I think of justice, I always look back to a Gurbani quote that makes a lot of sense to me. The whole context of the Shabad is a little larger, but one of the lines is Pura Nyao kare kartar. So nyao means justice, translated as justice. Kare kartar, Wahguru, the creator, is the one who delivers true justice or full justice. And us as human beings, or Guru Sahib from that perspective, are the ones that are just kind of the deliverers of that, but it's coming from it's coming from the divine inspiration. However, if capturing an enemy and sentencing them to some type of punishment does not have a divine inspiration behind it, that can be considered revenge. So we have to be very clear. Guru Har Gobind Sahib even knows that Jahangir was directly or indirectly responsible for the Shahidi of Guru Arjan Sahib. At a later time, he becomes a hunting partner or a friend of Jahangir at the same time. When he realizes that Jahangir was manipulated in imposing this jailing of Guru Arjan Sahib and then ultimate Shahidi of Guru Arjan Sahib. So justice gets delivered because Guru Sahib, for those of you that don't know, did give sanction to the Sikh Sangat to punish Chandu Brahman, who was really responsible for the Shahidi of Guru Arjan Sahib as well. So that's why justice really, the real clarity in lifestyle of what is justice, where should it be presented, that's where Guru Har Gobind Sahib, shines and gives us a shining example of how we are to also look at justice, especially, I'm sure many of you are thinking in the context of today with Sikh-Indian government relations, with Sikh and U.S. government relations from a civil rights perspective, which we're going to talk about some of those things. I know there's a lot of questions that might be coming up on these kind of theoretical or theological and historical framework as well, but I think I really want to move forward and get towards more of the kind of how it applies today to our life. So look at these core values, dig deeper into the stories that you may have learned of the Gurus, or go and study more about the history and see how you can apply them from what was the ethical lifestyle, what was the way of living of the Gurus. Really quick question from Jasjeet Singh in Leeds, UK is in the Grist Udasi, I wouldn't call it a dichotomy, and that's what I try to present. It's not a dichotomy. But in the Grist Udasi principle, Udasi refers to a detachment. Grist refers to being involved with the world. So we're to be like the lotus flower, where you are in the world, which everyone gets confused and lives in doubt with Maya, but at the same time be aloof of that Maya and not let Maya control you, but you control Maya, so the other way around. So it's really not a grust and renouncing of society and being celibate from that perspective. It's being involved in the world, but yet being detached from it at the same time. Okay, remember everyone, and I like to repeat this over and over again. I'll just take the second Gurbani Tuk that many of us have probably heard before. What we do as Sikhs, our ethical living, our ethical lifestyle cannot be individual-centric. So it cannot be that, hey, I am going to live an ethical lifestyle based on Gurmat. Because Gurmat and our lifestyles are not individualistic, as opposed to other faiths where they are. Salvation of the self is of the utmost importance. In the Sikh context, salvation, so to speak, quote-unquote salvation, is of the group, not of the individual. So, in Guru Ramdas Sahib Shabad, Gur Satgur Ka Jo Sikh Akai So Palke Uthan Naam Chahe, many of us are going to take that context to say that is what Guru Sahib is presenting as an individual Sikh's lifestyle. But if we look at the last line of that Shabad, he says, Jan Nanak Tur Mangay Tis Gur Sikh Ki Jo aap jape avra naam japave. Right? And avra naam japave is the key over here. Sure, we have an individual responsibility to associate with the divine, not a responsibility, but privilege as well, to associate with the divine in whatever way, Nam Japana, whatever we believe Nam Japana to be in our own context, wo to zaruri hai. That's a requirement. But at the same time, Guru Ramdas Sahib says that what really I enjoy, what really I can associate with and relate with is one who inspires others to do the same thing. That translation that I have down over there, Nanak begs for the dust of the feet of that Sikh who aches with love and inspires others to ache with love, is a direct quote that I took from Professor Puran Singh. How he translates Nam Japana is to ache with love. So no one can tell you or me how we are supposed to ache with love, right? It's something that we need to be individually inspired to understand, and then convert it to do. So aching with love encompasses all of the ways that we know how to associate with the divine. So that's the kind of person that Guru Sahib wants us to be. Therefore, what it means is be involved with not only improving our own lifestyles, but encouraging others to come along with us as well. So emphasis on changing the value patterns, not only of the individual, but of the society as well. Jagjit Singh, Sikh Revolution, a book very well worth reading to kind of get the sovereignty concept of, holistic sovereignty concept of the Khalsa as well. Okay, so that's great. All of this is from a theological framework, makes sense. How do we practically use it? Guru Sahib has given us practical resources, practical tools to get inspired and live an ethical lifestyle as well. Some of the tools I have put over here in this slide. Everything is Guru-centric, so the Guru Granth and Guru Khalsa Panth, all the resources available within that, the unlimited resources, so to speak, are available within that. But I wanted to focus here on the operating principles. So if our lifestyle is governed by these three principles of Nam Japna, Kirt Kartni, Van Ke Chakna, then it becomes very easy to use those to understand and how to live our life. Nam Japna I've pretty much already covered. It's living in harmony with the divine. Kirt Karni, this is where we're going to have a lot of discussion, I'm sure. You know, what truly is honest and ethical living. One of the things in the parentheses here, it's for our sustenance, whatever we need, house, food, cars, etc. But it's also earning of goodness, earning of, through our actions, are we really, making a difference in society? So, Van Chakana, something I always like to mention over here. This says Van Chakana, it doesn't say Chakke Varna. So, what has become, everyone is very familiar with the Van Ke Chakna principle. But in bringing it in reality, what we do is, hey, let's figure out what I need for myself. Whatever's left over, I give away. The ideal of the Khalsa used to be, I mean, this is, it's like our oral tradition tells us when the Khalsa would come and free a certain village or a certain district from the Mughal or from Ahmad Shah Abdali's camp, whatever loot that they collected, traditionally what would have happened is people would take what was theirs and then distribute what was left. What the Khalsa would do with the loot or the food or anything like that, put it in the middle of the village and say, everyone take what you need. Whatever gets left over, that belongs to the Khalsa. So that was a kind of a historical perspective, but the principle Guru Nanak Sahib presented is that our whole exertion of life should be for others, and in servicing of others, the individual develops as well. So Van Ke Chakna is actually a very deeper, I don't want to say philosophy, a deeper principle with which we should kind of think about and try to live with. I wanted to just place a little bit of emphasis on that. I've covered some of the things over here, the Miri Piri, the whole dual yet integrated approach. And then there's, another resource, another tool that the Guru has given if you so choose to, you know, publicly declare that you will live this type of lifestyle, live this type of way based on the Guru, then submitting through the process of Amrit, wearing of the 5 articles of faith, that is another resource that helps us from an external perspective to develop our internal as well. And you know, it goes hand in hand. Developing the internal, the ideal person, also strengthens the fort outside. So that's about it from you know, this whole theological perspective, this whole framework perspective, how we have to look at ethical living. I just threw over here different areas that we should talk about, we should discuss when it comes to ethical living. I hear, looks like he has, I hear a panel, sorry, Savraj Singh writes to me, does this mean Sikh entrepreneurs are doomed to only start non-profit organizations? It's actually a very interesting question, Savraj. I mean, I don't want to relay this message that there is no need for Sikhs to make money and only work on non-profit. You know, Sikhs should be, and Guru Sahib period time frame, he was very clear. Let me relate one story that I wanted to tell, and you know, these are once again oral traditions, Sina Basina stories, and you know, the actual facts of the matter may be you know, inaccurate as I present it. However, the message always remains with me. In one of his travels, Guru Nanak falls upon a village in which there was one individual who was a very, very successful, you know, from an economic perspective individual, earned a relatively honest living. So there was no mention of whether he collected it dishonestly or not, but assume that he earned a very honest living, but collected all of his wealth, made huge mansions, decorated his house with gold and other ornamentations. However, on the other hand, he was not really sharing that wealth that he gathered. So Guru Nanak becomes his friend, talks to him, and then when he was about to depart the village, Guru Nanak gives him a little pin, a little sui, and he says, you know, when we meet again in the next life, please bring this pin along and return it to me then. And this very honest man who's earned a lot and very smart and knowledgeable, he kind of looks at Guru Nanak funny and says, how is it possible that I'm going to take this pin to my next life? And Guru Nanak Sahib goes, aha, all this wealth that you have been collecting, what is the purpose of collecting all of it? You're not going to be able to take it with you when the time is at its end. So Guru Nanak didn't poke at him and say, don't be successful in an entrepreneurial life. However, what is the purpose? Why are you collecting all of this money? That's something that you need to think about. Jasmine Kaur sends me a reminder. Any questions should be sent to Jasmine Kaur directly, and then she can forward them on to me. Okay, these are all different categories of ethical living. Professor Puran Singh, I always love this quote from him. He says, intellectual analysis is never right. Perception by the soul is never wrong. So I can present to you all the frameworks and all the different methods of understanding Gurmat and Gurbani and Guru history, but that would be purely an intellectual exercise. Really, at the end of the day, it's what you make of it and how you feel that you should work through it. So I'm going to go through the next few slides are just introspective, reflective questions that I want everyone to think about. So actually, in this case, I don't mind if people present their chats to me directly. So let me ask you a question. What choices do we make in our community relationships? Let me actually rephrase the question a little bit. Let's agree on what are the kind of areas in our community relationships that we should be thinking ethically about. let me give you a couple examples from my perspective. How we interact with our family and friends. So that's something, one category of relationships that we need to think about. If anyone wants to, through the chat panel, just choose a presenter, or actually all panelists, and send some of other categories of relationships that we have in our lives that we should really be thinking about. I'll give you 30 seconds or so to do that, because I have some examples of my own, but I wanted to hear from the audience out there. Okay. I don't see any chats flowing through. Maybe they're going to Jasmine. So family and friends is one. Something that I want to, that's exactly what I was looking for. The relationship between gurdwaras and the environment. That was on my list right up on top. Gurdwara is the first one. So that's something to, there's this whole aspect of our life that is centered around the Gurdwara. That's a given if we call ourselves Sikhs, right? Of course. Now, what is our responsibility when it comes to the Gurdwara? Are we there just to be, passive members of the Sangat? Does, our Bani, our historical perspective and our traditions of Sikh lifestyle really actually make us necessitate us or give us a responsibility to be active members of the Sangat? If we see things that we might not feel comfortable with, are we to raise our voices, or are we to, just sit and suck it in and just go along just like the rat race of life? Also make it a rat race in our Gurdwara perspective as well. So excellent point about Gurdwara, something I would like you guys to think about. Environment was mentioned. I actually have a whole slide on environment as well. What other relationship, us and community relationship can be discussed? So I said family and friends, Gurdwara. We're being very Sikh-centric here. I'm assuming that majority of us are in North America, also UK. And maybe probably in India as well. Another example that's come across now is teacher and colleagues. Exactly. So in the academic world, in our academic lifestyle, whether it be in high school, elementary school, colleges, actually we have a lot more interaction, a lot more possibility to be to make choices that affect our lifestyle, right? It's all about choices at the same time as well. So in colleges, that's definitely something that we have to start thinking about. Look at the Gurmat framework, and in every action that we do, whether we're in college. I've got a few more, which is very good. This is what I wanted. Co-workers in the offices where you're living, so employer-employee relationship. Another one, which is a very obvious one, because the word is right there on the screen, community. So the wider community in general. The question I ask, and by the way, I don't want to sound preachy, please. The question I ask is, how many of us has gone across the street or gone next door and talked to our neighbors just in a casual, friendly manner? Above and beyond that, how many of us have gone to our town halls or our centers, whichever context we live in, our centers, and talk to the town clerk or the city councilor and just to introduce yourselves, and if there is some issue that you have with the town, to kind of have a conversation about that. Be involved in the community from an ethical living or from a Gurmat perspective. One of the messages we got is you have to be involved in society. We cannot be confined into our own, kind of insulated family, friend, and Sangat, Gurdwara-related Sangat relationships. Need to expand and open up our relationships. So, yes, so know thy neighbor aspect, relationship with employer and employee. At a really higher level, this interface, getting involved from an organizational perspective with interface, those are absolutely, if that's the inspiration that Guru Sahib is providing, we as an individual should become part of larger organizations that present or that that encourage that type of relationship. So lots more. We could go on and discuss this. Obviously, we could also have more discussion in this area. This is one of my biases or favorite topics, which is the environment. I'm going to be very quick and present. You can get multiple references in Gurbani in which a compassionate relationship with the environment is actually a must-have for all Sikhs. Soila, Gagan mein tha, Ravchand Deepak bane, Tar ka mandal Janak Moti. This is Guru Nanak's expression of the beauty of nature and how our relationship with nature should be one of awe, rather than worshipping and deitizing worldly goods. Rather, take a look at nature and see how the cosmos is being implemented. Mata Tat Mahat. So many different examples from Bani. But I wanted to present, many of you maybe know this, Guru Har Rai Sahib. Guru Har Rai Sahib was known as a model of preserving the human/nature relationship. He had constituted a zoological sanctuary in which a lot of different types of species of animals were cared for. He had a botanical garden which was used for medicinal purposes, not just for the Sikhs, but for everyone in the community, but also for beautification purposes, to give others the kind of create that relationship with nature. I mean, it was very easy back in those days, where majority of the people were tillers of the soil, and that getting their hands dirty with the ground was really it was kind of inherent in the psyche. We as Sikhs today have to make a big effort to kind of bring that back. But guess what? We have a lot of help. Al Gore helped us a little bit to bring the message of the Guru back with his documentary. So very quick through the chat, what are some of the things that we can do? Let's be as specific as possible in our family relationships, Gurdwara relationships, in our towns and in our wider communities when it comes to the environment. What are one or two tangible examples that you can present and call? This is an ethical. This is a choice of living that I am making. Maybe something that you guys are already doing, something that you don't see going on in our Sikh institutions or in our communities in general. Okay, it's a lot of very obvious things, right? Gurdwaras is one of them, especially here in North America, probably in other areas as well. Back a long time ago, Gurdwaras were really all self-sufficient, meaning wood was used to cook the food, the ashes from the wood was used to clean the utensils. There were no paper plates or even steel plates. Everything was on, on pattiyan de mande. So the recycling practice, or the kind of consumeristic lifestyle we have brought into our Langar institution as well as in the Gurdwara. So we have another one here: is stop pouring cooking oil down the drains and disposing of it in a proper manner. And yeah, so you can go on and on. Stop buying too much food for langar. Yes, and this is a very key. Not only is there a need to sustain environment from have a sustainable Gurdwara environment, the consumption that takes place in the Gurdwara is really getting out of hand. But let's not point the finger at the Gurdwara, guys. What I wanted to do over here today is take it from all levels of our relationship. Let's see what we're doing in our families. Let's see what we're doing in the places where we work, or in organizations that we belong to when they're get-togethers, etc. So that's what we consume, how much we consume, regardless of whether it's food or other resources. That's very important. One interesting idea that someone is presenting here is, whether it's going to work, etc. But here in Massachusetts, not too many Gurdwaras, so carpooling as Sangat members on Sundays to go to the Gurdwaras as well, rather than everyone coming individually in their cars. So even from that perspective, very tangible, very confined to the Sikh context here, but you can take that even bigger as well. Okay, I do want to present another area where ethical living is definitely something to think about. Before that, here's an example. So if we say that we can't do this, we can't become exemplars of this, Bhagat Puran Singh, I'm not talking now about 300-400 years ago. In our lifetime, Bhagat Puran Singh, Aap jape, avre naam japave. He lived the lifestyle of an ethical lifestyle and a holistic ethical lifestyle, and he inspired hundreds and thousands of people to do that as well. So all the way from being an environmental advocate to being involved with the community and being purposeful. He could have done other things, but the purpose, the need of the time was to take care of those that were not being taken care of by anyone, government, families. So he took it upon himself to take care of the sick and disabled. So anyway, when it came to, I remember 10, 15 years ago, the first time when I read some of his writing, it was just a phenomenal experience, and how he related practically why it's important to be an environmentalist back then. So even before Al Gore made it popular, if even us Sikhs could have taken Bhagat Puran Singh's message back then, and we would have been in probably much better shape. You will have a session on this very soon within the Liv webinars, is the human rights and our ethical responsibilities, or our responsibilities in general when it comes to human rights. Not only do we need to be inwardly focused and defend our own human rights or civil rights. I don't want to confine it to just atrocities of physical nature, atrocities of any law which does not allow the sovereign Khalsa to flourish in a compassionate balance between a geopolitical law versus the sovereignty that has been bestowed upon us by the Gurus. That is something that I believe, my example to you at least, is where we have to be active. Many in our Sikh communities here in North America, UK, have been active in that at every corner, whether it be in school, at work, or in other scenarios. We have really worked together in very creative ways to be to uphold our rights. I believe some of the shortcomings for us as a community now is to now also look outward. Sudan and other, in Darfur and other areas of the world where there are real serious issues taking place that we have to at least feel compassionate about, and based on our capabilities, do something about. I have to move a little quickly, and the last slide is really, I think, something we don't have the age or what the profession of everyone out there is. There's about 40 participants. But if through a chat, if you can present to me some answers to these questions that I have posed here. So this has to all do with our career choices, our buying choices, our spending choices. This, I think, is something, if you look at, once again, from that Gurmat framework that I presented earlier, this is where a lot of our time in our lives is consumed. Let me give you a very quick story, once again, that gives you what's the attitude of the Guru, or what's the Guru attitude from a historical perspective. Once again, from our old tradition, these stories might sound trivial, but they're very pertinent and in you know, transcribing them and putting them to our own lives. The story goes that Gobind Rai, prior to becoming Guru, somewhere in Patna, one Sikh came and presented the house of the Guru with 2 bangles, specifically for Gobind Rai at that time. These were really expensive gold kadas that were, you know, considered to be a very beautiful gift to the Guru's household. The story goes that Gobind Rai took those bangles, took one of them, and while playing with it, actually threw it out in the river. The person who had presented this gift felt shocked. Such an expensive gift that I have given to the Guru household, and Gobind Rai, the little child, has thrown it away and doesn't consider this to be of any value. Goes and talks to Mata Gujri ji, complains to her, and Mata Gujri ji, the story goes, I mean, it's a story that I think, you know, we relate to our kids, but it's very pertinent for me and you and all of us today. Mata Gujri goes to Gobind Rai ji and says, where and why did you throw, or where did you throw the bangle? He takes the other kada and he throws it in the river and says, Main utthe sutya. I threw it exactly where the second bangle went. The moral of the story is the value that the Guru household used to put on material wealth is insignificant compared to the more, you know, the padarat that was talked about in the first Shabad, in the hukum for today. The real treasure is a treasure of ethical living, of virtuous actions, and some can say is the treasure of Naam, right? So the question that was presented earlier, should Sikhs not be entrepreneurs? Absolutely. But if we are protecting that wealth because we want to be secure in our lifestyles, we want to preserve it for our progeny, for our, you know, for our children, then we have to step back and think about it. But I tell you, literally, there are people, there are Sikhs out there that their purpose in becoming successful in life is so that they can have enough wealth to embark on certain, you know, certain endeavors that they feel are necessary for example, environmental concerns or educational concerns for the community in general. Usually it ends up being, of course, Sikh-oriented organizations that that I've had discussions with them about. But the fact of the matter is that the purpose of earning, so why to earn, is to then help in the future for different community needs. And a lot of you might have different stories about that. I think here's a comment that I'm getting privately. 1 second. Okay, I'm not. It's a comment, and I think if Ravi Singh If it's okay for me to share it with the Sangat, could you just type yes on your chat? Okay. So there's a lot of us that understand the spirit of SikhRI. We all deep down know the answers to these questions. We only ask them when we want to convince ourselves that what we are already doing is right, even when deep down we may not think is consistent with the spirit of SikhRI. Yeah, and that's really the kind of the the struggle that we go through. And I think, you know, that's why I presented those things that are apparent dichotomies. They're really a dual approach of an integrated principle. So there may be times where we think that something that we're pursuing is for the community, but we you know, falter and it becomes individualistic. And there's certain times where we think we're doing it for individualistic reasons, but it ends up helping the community. And that's a balance which I'm not here to answer for you. That's a balance that we ourselves, remember, perception of the soul is never wrong. But perceiving, the act of questioning ourselves, that's I think what we get out over here today is ethical living or a Gurmat approach. It's really thoughtful living is what's required over here. Another comment we got from Preet Tucker. Would another question be to add to this be what to earn? After all, earning is not necessarily correlated to money. Very good point. Exactly. My whole reason of putting that dollar sign there is to, you know, kind of, that's the image that is given to all of us when it comes to what we earn. You know, if you think of it from a theological perspective, earning of good deeds is a metaphor that is used all the time in Gurbani. So that's that. Yeah, taking a holistic approach to an ethical lifestyle would also include not only are we earning monetarily, are we making a difference in society by our actions as well. I think that's pretty much what I wanted to do. We should have a general Q&A very soon. I will leave this up so that you guys can read it. This is from, once again, from Professor Puran Singh. If you notice, what I try to do is not present a list of do's and don'ts, and this is from a Gurmat perspective, this is considered a good deed, or this is considered a good way of living, versus this is considered a bad way of living, because we could get stuck in that accounting process. Itne pun kite te inne paap katke. If I do so many good deeds, all of these number of sins gets erased. You know, if we start in this, you know, numerical accounting practice of good deeds and bad deeds, that's where we get stuck. And the Gurmat perspective is really the feeling of ethical living rather than a, you know, a technology of ethical living. And that's my perspective over here. Professor Puran Singh presents, it's not miserable ethics, it's not those catalogs of do's and don'ts, it's not the great waste of human energy and feeling involved in institutionalizing personal charities. You know, he's writing this about 50 years ago, and the reasonings behind opening up organizations from a Sikh perspective, something to think about of, you know, what he was saying. If he's not condemning them, he's saying that what we think is our reasoning behind living the lifestyle that we live needs to be always reconsidered in the context of Gurmat. I've taken this from his essay over here, and it's worth reading his whole book actually to understand what he's trying to say over here. So, Sangatji, I did a lot of talking today, but hopefully there was a little bit of interaction that was possible through this the chat panel. Where what I want to do is, if there's any you know, questions that you want to bring across. Yeah, it's just in general open question and answer session is what we want to do for, I think, the next 5 minutes or so. and then if not, then Jasmine will take over to take us to the next step.
Okay, it doesn't look like we have too many questions today. Some of them got addressed during the session. I just wanted to go over a little our next session. I hope you can hear me. I wanted to go over our next session. Our next session is going to be next week at 12 p.m. Central Time, called Visualizing Barney, bringing the message to life. And that is, the description of it is, the focus of this will be on how to make Barney visual through use of nature and art. Essentially, we would take 2 to 3 visual Shabads and walk through the different activities that can be done in the classroom setting, maybe a camp setting, or even at home. We will discuss developmentally appropriate questions and how they can be tackled. The session is best suited really for Gurmat and Punjabi school administrators and teachers, camp counselors, young parents and grandparents, or anyone who's interested in trying to get creative and start thinking from a creative angle. So please go ahead and register for that, and next week we'll tell you more about the other ones. Again, the title for next week's session is going to be Visualizing Barney, Bringing the Message to Life.
Okay, this is Inderpreet Singh, so I wanted to thank everyone for their time today. We're going to conclude the session. Jagdeep Singh is now going to take over and present a feedback questionnaire. I request everyone to fill it out and provide us as much feedback, both positive and even criticism as well, regarding content and technology, whichever angle you want to, and we look forward to you guys joining in the next session next week. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.